Most important thing to take away from the human population notes is that people around the world are going to look different. So again, your notes should look like this in your notebook. Our first term is going to be population density. How many people in one area? So population density is just the number of humans in an area. Now we typically, when we're looking at maps, we typically look at per square mile. So maybe there's 100 people per square mile. So here's an example of a population map. As we can see, New York City is way more populated than the middle of Nevada. Another example of a population density map would be one that looks at populations by county. So for example, if we look at Kansas City, right, in between Kansas and Missouri, compared to Western Kansas, we see a huge difference in numbers between how many people. We know there's more people in Kansas City, in a smaller area, than there is in Western Kansas. And another great example is Kansas City, as of 2008, had 1,529 people per mile. Okay, so that's a very highly densely populated area. All right, so moving on, nearly 1 in 10 people in the world cannot read this sentence. Why? I want you to come up with a reason why. 2/3 of the people in the world who cannot read are women. Why is that? Literacy rate is the total percent of population who can read and write. So literacy rate is the total percent of population who can read and write. So again, if we look at this map, this chart, number 1 ranking, South Sudan. Only 27% of the population can read and write. That's an extremely low. That's almost 3 out of 10 people can read and write. So this statistic is saying 73% of the country cannot read and cannot write. Our next key term is going to be fertility rate. And fertility rate is the total number of children born or likely to be born to a woman in her lifetime. So again, as we can see from the bottom of this screen, in the United States, on average, women are going to have 1.7 children. Obviously, you can't have 0.7 of a child. So most women have between 1 and 2 children. Now, I want you to think, what are some things that might impact fertility rate? What would make fertility rate rise? And what is something that might make fertility rate lower? Next up is infant mortality rate. Infant mortality rate is the number of deaths per 1,000 live births of children under 1 year old. So what that means, it's the baby has to be born from the day it's born to 1 year old. Okay, so if they pass away during the day they're born to 1 year old, that number gets included in a country's infant mortality rate. Okay, so, and it's out of 1,000. So per 1,000 babies born in this country, how many are going to die before they reach the age of 1? I want you to stop and think, what's something that could impact infant mortality rate? All right, up next, I want you to pause this video and I want you to watch this in your notes. All right, our next key term is average lifespan / life expectancy. You can kind of interchange them. And all that is the average age someone lives to. So in the United States, between men and women, the most average age is going to be 79 years old. The average age between men and women, you're most likely to live to 79 years old. Again, that doesn't mean you can't live older. It doesn't mean you can't die sooner. That's just the average age. I want you to stop and think, what can impact this number? What could cause a country's life expectancy to be 40 years old? Or what can cause a country's life expectancy to be 98? Our last key term is going to be gross domestic product. The whole school year, we're just going to call it GDP. And that is the amount of final goods and services produced by a country. So GDP really revolves around money. So on the left, we see that the United States in 2017 produced approximately $19.39 trillion. On the flip side, Haiti only produced $8.4 billion. So what does that tell us about how much money is in each of those countries? What country has more money and what country has less money? Alrighty, once you have filled out your note sheet, what you are going to do is you are going to do a country examination. What you will do is you'll pick any country that is not the United States. You'll insert a picture of your country. You'll then find the population density, fertility rate, literacy rate, infant mortality rate, and average lifespan of the country. And then once you have filled the sheet out, you're going to hop on over to Canvas and you're going to click on the assignment that says Human Population Country Examination. And you are going to make an educated prediction as to what life is like in your country based on the human population notes you just took.